Psalms 51. It's in the book of Psalms, Psalms 51. And then 2 Corinthians, the 7th chapter and the 1st verse. Again, I'm grateful to see all of you all that are here. I know sometimes coming to church sometimes is a real pull, but I just love God, and I want to do what pleases Him, and learning more about Him and fellowship with Him. I don't want to lose that. Don't want to lose that. Psalms 51, beginning at verse number 10. When you have it, would you please stand? If not, we will wait for you. And again, be finding 2 Corinthians chapter number 7 and the 1st verse. That's where we're going next. Amen. Amen. All right. Psalms 51, verse number 10. And it reads as thus: create in me a clean heart, O God, and renew a what?
Right spirit.
No, a wrong spirit.
Right spirit.
No, some other kind of spirit.
Right.
And renew a right spirit within me. If there is a right spirit, then there's a what? Wrong spirit. Amen. Let's flip over to 2 Corinthians 7. When you have it, would you say amen?
Amen.
2 Corinthians chapter 7, verse number 1. And it reads, having therefore these promises, dearly beloved, let us, look at that, let us cleanse ourselves from from all filthiness of the flesh and what?
Spirit.
And spirit, perfecting holiness in the fear of God. And I want to use a thought, and again, we won't be long, and that is from Psalms 51, where it talks about the right spirit. I want you to ask yourself a question. Now, don't look at your neighbor. Don't look at somebody else. Because sometimes we specialize in finding faults with everybody else. We can find out everything wrong with everybody else. But I want you to ask yourself a question. Do I have the right spirit? Do I have the right spirit? You may have your seats. Thank you, musicians. Appreciate you all. Amen. Let's give our music department a hand. Amen. Amen. Thank God for Brother John, Brother Various, Brother Cal. Amen. Amen. Glad to see all of you all in your place, just doing a good job. When we look at our text on tonight, our text in 2 Corinthians actually starts in chapter number 6. Here we have Paul, who is working with the church at Corinth. The Apostle Paul is the one that founded the church at Corinth. He was the one that preached this church out. For those of you that did not know, in Corinth, it was almost like Chicago, if you will. That they had some of everything going on in Corinth. Some of everything that was happening. They had folk that worshiped idol gods, that believe in child sacrifice and giving their children to be burned in the fire to worship God. And then you had people that worship God that involve sexual acts. And so because of these sexual acts, they had what they call temple prostitutes. And that they were there to help carry out some of the ritual services that was going on in Corinth. All of these things was going on in Corinth. And here the Apostle Paul preached out a church in Corinth. And the people that were there, people from the city being involved in some of these different things, became members of the church. Now, all of us we've all gone through something. We all come from different backgrounds and have experienced some different things. All of us have. Some good, some bad. All of our past and our futures, all of our past and our present are not the same. And so when we think about that, sometimes the things that we go through can have an effect on us, if you will. When I look at my car, my old Cadillac, and I probably should make this analogy, Brother Troy, because I'm not such a great mechanic. Brother Troy is, I'm not. But I noticed that even though my car is, it's about 4 years old, and when I go to check the oil, sometimes when I go to check that oil, even though the car is relatively clean, there's dirt that gets on my hands when I go to pull that stick out to check the oil. Why? Because in my travels where I go, the dust from Gary gets in my car. The dust from Griffith gets in my car. The dust from Maryville gets in my car. The dust from Lowell gets in my car. The dust from all of these areas that I travel through gets on my car. And so when I go to check the oil, it may not look like much dirt is there, but you can feel the vestiges, Mother Wallace. You can feel the vestiges from where I have been. To help you to understand the word vestiges, how many of you all have ever picked up a plate and it looked clean? But once you put your hand on it, you kind of felt a little grease. Felt a little grease on it. You didn't see it. But once you touch it, you can feel a little residue. They call that vestiges. And sometimes in our lives, because of what we've gone through and where we've been, we have vestiges. We have vestiges in our lives. You can't see them, but every now and then you can feel them. And here is the Apostle Paul who has preached out this church, and all of these people that have gone through different things are now members of the church. And so now, again, when we read this now, this book is not written to the world, but the book was written to the church. That's who the letter was addressed to. It was addressed to the church. So I don't want you to think that this stuff is happening outside of the church. This stuff is happening on the inside of the church. And so now, as again, Paul birthed the church. It started out beautifully. He was preaching to the people. Folks got saved. From all over, they got saved, gave God their lives. Then so Paul went away, and others filled in for him. But while the Apostle Paul was gone, other things started creeping back in the church. And it's really like our lives that, all of us have come from different things. Not all of us experience the same thing. Not all of us come from the same background. But every now and then, the thing that we have come from, every now and then, it winds up knocking at your door. And I want to call those things vestiges. And so now we have to do what we have to do to keep these things down. We got to keep them down, because if we don't keep them down, they'll step in and cause us some trouble. And so now, because of the mindset of the people, in verse number 6 of 2 Corinthians, look at it if you will, because I don't want you all to think that Elder Dolton just be making up stuff. Look at in chapter number 6. Look at verse number 14. The Apostle Paul says, "Be ye not unequally yoked together with unbelievers. For what fellowship has righteousness with unrighteousness? And what communion has light with darkness?" Here though these people that have been called out, separated, still wanted to hold on to some things of their past. To some friendships of their past, some relationships of their past. You know, it was in the Levitical law that, you know, back then before they had tractors, they had to have animals that plowed the field, and oftentimes there would be two. And the thing that would hold these two animals together was called a yoke. And the yoke hooked up and connected each beast so that they could pull the plow through the dirt. And even in the Levitical law, you couldn't take an ox and a horse together. It was wrong. They said, don't do it. God said it in the Levitical law, don't do that. Don't mix these animals together because they don't belong. And here now the Apostle Paul is using that as an example, telling us not to get hooked up with people that are not in the church. Why? Because they'll pull you away. They'll take away from you. Because again, now whereas before you could do what you wanted to do, now that you've gotten saved, your life is dedicated to God. And that now you not only leave stuff, but you go after Him. And now your goal and your desire is to please God. That is your top priority. And so in verse 16, Paul says, what agreement has the temple of God with idols? He says, for ye are the temple of the living God. As God has said, I will dwell in them and walk in them. And I will be their God, and they will be my people. God wants to have fellowship. He wants to have communion. He wants to be a part of your life. So therefore, because He wants to have fellowship with you, there are some things you have to do. Look at verse number 17. It says, because of this, in essence, wherefore, He says, come out from among them, and be ye separate, saith the Lord. And touch not the unclean things. And look at what God says, and I will receive you. There are some things that we need to leave alone that are not good for us, because they will contaminate us and they will hinder our walk with God. But God is saying that I want you to leave these things alone, and I will receive you. Look at verse number 18. And will be a father unto you, and ye shall be my sons and daughters, saith the Lord Almighty. When I looked at that verse, I immediately thought about my sister-in-law, Sister Dina. Because Sister Dina refers to God as Daddy. That's how she refers to Him. She has that connection. That's how she sees them. And here God is saying that I will be a father unto you, and you will be my sons, saith the Lord. God is saying, this is what I want to do. I want us to have a close relationship. Now look as we get into our opening text, verse number 1 in chapter 7. In essence, because of these things, it says, having therefore these promises, dearly beloved, let us cleanse ourselves from all filthiness of the flesh and spirit. There are some things I hear people say all the time as they wrestle with issues and problems, that I'm waiting for God to do it. And as you have just read in the verse, the Apostle Paul, which he did not exclude himself, but included himself, he said, let us, inclusive, cleanse ourselves from all filthiness of the flesh and spirit. There are some things you got to do. Some people say, I'm waiting on God. No, God said, I'm waiting for you. Because some things you have to do. Something we got to shut down. That we can't entertain no more. We can't do no more because it will hinder our walk with God. And so we have to leave some things alone, and we have to crucify this flesh. You know, some of us, and all of us had a point of origin and beginning. You know, when I first got saved, there's some stuff that I was doing for years. Enjoyed doing it. Had big fun doing it. But when I got in the church, they said, you can't do that no more. And I had to give up those things. It wasn't easy. It didn't happen overnight. But I had to give them up. I had to let them go because they would hinder my walk with God, or they were not good for me. You know, we don't all come through the same thing. And I'm going to use this as an example, not to preach on it, but use it as an example. How many remember Gilbert Patterson, Bishop Patterson, the former presiding bishop of the Church of God in Christ? Bishop G. Patterson. Huge church. At least 5,000 members. Huge church in Memphis. Bishop Patterson said that he had a member of his church, and this particular sister, she was a closet smoker. She was hiding the fact that she was smoking cigarettes. Didn't let people know, but she was smoking. Now, I am not going to tell you that you're going to hell because you puffed on a cigarette. But I do want you to be concerned, because on that package, it says very clearly that smoking can be hazardous to your health. That smoking is so dangerous that they even make buildings smoke-free. They don't even want you to be close enough because of the dangers of secondhand smoke. And here this sister, she was a closet smoker. Been doing it for years. She enjoyed it. And one day, because she knew she should have stopped, but she kept doing it. See, it's hard to get rid of an enemy that you like. It's hard to get rid of an enemy that you're still playing footsie with. Still finding some comfort in something that's killing you. And so what happened is with this sister went to the doctor, and they told her that she had cancer. And the cancer was a direct result of smoking them cigarettes. And now here, even though the pastor told her don't do it and she should try to stop, she kept doing it. And now she comes to the bishop saying, Bishop, I need you to pray for me, Bishop. They say, I got cancer because I've been smoking these cigarettes. And it's our job to pray, whether you got a problem or not. That's our job. But I just think that, what if some things we would have stopped? What if we would have known? What if we did what we know to do? and stop playing footsie with the enemy and get rid of him. I wonder, my cheek would have been spared. And some stuff we can't blame on the devil because it's us. And so now, so here Paul is saying we got to get rid of these things. That's just one of them. There are some other issues because some people got sexual problems, some people got problems with other things. But that's just an example of one that you need to get rid of. But then the Apostle Paul doesn't stop there. He also says that we should cleanse ourselves of the filthiness of the flesh and spirit. Yesterday, Deacon Collins and I were out praying for the sick with the 6 members of our church. And while we were out getting ready to go into Brother Fitzpatrick's house, I could hear this man across the street, a little ways down, just yelling and cussing and having a fit. This guy was so angry and so upset that he took the neighbor's puppy and slammed it against the house. Just threw it. Just threw it. I just could not believe. I was horrified. And I just thought to myself, oh my goodness. And the reason why is because he allowed anger to rise up within him. Some of us suffer from an angry spirit. We do good until you make me mad. When you make me mad, you got a problem. See, I'm cool with you. As long as you don't get on my nerves, we'll be good. But if you get on my nerve, we got a problem. Why? Because I got an angry spirit. And people that get involved that have these angry spirit will hurt folks. They'll hurt people. They'll hurt things because they have this angry spirit. They get mad. And you got to get rid of these things because the Bible says we got to cleanse ourselves of the filthiness of the flesh and spirit. And some of us we don't have anger, but we got a residue. We got a film of pride. We got a film of pride on our lives. I'm good. Don't you hurt my pride. Don't you hurt my pride. Don't you bother my pride. Don't do something to offend my pride. I'm good until you mess with that. Then we got a problem. And see, the dangerous thing about some of these things is that sometimes you don't see them. Because you can hide pride. You can put on your smile and look just as pleasant and be just as prideful. The Bible says 6 things God hates, and yea, 7 is abomination in his sight. And the very first thing he says he hates is a proud look. God said, I hate the look of pride. I hate it. And so we got to get rid of these things because they'll hinder my walk with God. They'll hinder my relationship. And there's some other issues that we have. We have pride. We have nepotism. We have respect of person. We have ego. We got to watch all of these things. Anytime you get mad because you can't have your way, there's something wrong with that. There's something wrong with that because, again, it's about doing the work of God. There are something I want to do even in my home. If you're going to be married, you're not going to always get your way. Now, if you don't want to stay married, just do whatever you want to do. Just keep doing it, and you're going to find yourself in the divorce court. Because in a marriage, you got to give up some things, and sometimes you got to take down and humble yourself. I don't like it, but I want to stay married. and brothers, I'm going to throw this in and I'm not charging. Sometimes, my brothers, you got to swallow your words.
All right.
Sometimes you may want to say something. You may want to blast them. But you better swallow your words.
All right.
Better swallow your words. If you're going to stay married, you got to swallow your words. And then sometimes, you know, how many of us know that it's wrong for a man to physically abuse his wife?
All right. You teaching now.
Sister Dorinka is not a punching bag.
All right.
Amen. And her father said right here, Papa, I ain't never touched her. All right? My record is clean. Now, how many of you all would agree that punching on her is wrong?
Amen.
Amen. So that's without question. Am I right?
All right.
We know that's wrong. So for me to physically abuse her, we know that's wrong. We know God don't like that.
That's right.
But then we can turn around. You don't have to be 5'7", 5'8", 220 pounds. Able to lift 200-300 pounds to hurt somebody. You can hurt them with your words.
Yes.
Some people are not physically strong, but you have a mouth that will hurt folks so bad it's like punching them through a brick wall.
Oh, Lord.
And see, now we all agree. All of y'all, I got you. We recorded. All of y'all said amen to physical abuse.
Amen.
I got you on tape. But don't you know that verbal abuse is just as bad? And so God said, this is why you got to be careful. God said that it was better that you took a millstone and put it around your neck. A millstone is a big tool that they used in industrial work back in the day. It was big, about yay big, heavy. He said that it was better that a millstone be thrown around your neck and for you to be thrown in the midst of the sea with that millstone on, you ain't coming up. The Bible said it was better that a millstone was put on your neck and for you to be cast in the midst of the sea than to offend the least one. Sister Tasha, let me see your son. Come here, young man. That's not the preacher here, y'all. He don't know. He had to be out of town, but he was going to be one of the main speakers for Easter, but he was out of town. The least one. I'm the pastor. But you see this young man? You got to be careful even with him. Because God said, I'm going to get you. You mess with him. He said, I'm going to get you. And so you have to see. And so we have to be careful how we treat people. Because sometimes we got problems in the flesh and in the spirit. We need God to help us, but some things you have to do. And the first thing that you want to have to do is that you got to recognize, I got a problem. I suffer from some of these things. I suffer from an angry spirit. I suffer from pride. I suffer from being verbally abusive. I suffer from these things. I have a problem when people mess with my ego. I suffer from these things. You cannot get delivered until you acknowledge the fact that I got a problem. That's the first thing you need to do is say, God, I got a problem and I want you to help me. You have to decide that I can't do this no more. This is what Paul is making reference to. He says, let us cleanse ourselves from all filthiness of the flesh and spirit. It says perfecting holiness in the fear of God. There's some things we have to do. Look at verse number 1 in chapter 6, and I'm just about done. Chapter 6, verse number 1. This is why you want to give these things up. Chapter 6, verse number 1. It says, we then, as workers together with him, beseech ye also that ye receive not the grace of God in vain. What does that mean? That means that you can hear all of this preaching and not begin to live or begin to walk in what you're being taught. The Bible said that you have received the grace of God for nothing. For nothing. It's not helping you at all. If you don't put these things into practice and begin to live them, you receive the grace of God in vain. And it's very simple. It's like love. How is love shown? How is love proven? It's proven by what you do. It's not proven by what your mouth says. Because somebody can be slapping you upside the head all day long to say, I love you. After a while, if you love me, you have to stop slapping me. Amen. So again, you got to do something. And so I'm saying that, people of God, that as we strive to go after God, that we have to come up. We have to come up. There's no need in hearing a good sermon if you don't live it. You have to live it. And again, as I brought these things up, again, Paul had to remind the people and point these things out to the people so that they can come up. But if don't nobody ever talk about them, you may not ever realize that I'm messing up. And I need to do better. And I want to say that. The message was not about for you to take this sermon and judge the pastor. Because I will be more than happy to tell you all my faults. I'll tell you right now, I got some issues that I have to pray for. Amen. We all do. We all do. Because we got to keep these things down. But you can't get rid of a demon that if you keep playing footsie with them. You can't get rid of an enemy that you like. You got to make up your mind, I can't do this no more. Because it's hindering my walk with God. I can't keep cussing folks out because I get mad. Can't keep doing that. I can't keep throwing a brick at your house because you bust my window. Can't keep doing that. Not if I'm going to be his. Because that's what he requires. And so then, since we want to be God's people, we want to do things that please him, and we want him. We got to do what he wants us to do. Everybody please stand. Now, we're not going to put nobody on the spot. But you know what your issue is. You know what your situation is. You are in the house of God. A house that's called by his name. While you're in the house of God, the thing I love about God is that God cares about you. And the thing about it is you can't fool him anyway. He already knows you've got a problem. There are no secrets with him. And while today, after you've heard this message, the message entitled, are having the wrong spirit, I want you to talk to God. I want you to close your eyes and put your mind on Jesus and just begin to call on him.